Welcome to the BP Mindcast. I'm Jonathan Bartlett, your host. These podcasts cover a wide variety of topics from a conservative academic viewpoint. Some you'll find interesting, some you won't. However, I plan on keeping these short enough that you can easily enjoy what you like, and hopefully I won't keep you too long for those that you don't. Right now, we're in the middle of a series on expertise, and we're kind of covering, to some extent, the book The Death of Expertise by Tom Nichols. And um, I want to kind of continue on a topic we talked about a little bit in the last episode, and that is on the fact that someone's expertise, if they actually are an expert, usually their expertise is a lot narrower than you might think. So, for example, let's take my own expertise, if you'll call it, and I've been doing software development for over 20 years, and well over 20 years if you count a lot of my early days. So I've been doing software development for a long time, and I've grown to get various opinions on things, and I know the typical answers to typical questions, and kind of the typical feel for a lot of things in software. And I've done a lot. I've done contract work, so that's pulled me into a whole lot of different directions. And so I have so you know I in computer programming, you do a lot of what are called frameworks, and a framework is basically a general system for building things in, because a lot of pieces to projects kind of are similar from project to project, and a framework will kind of take those big pieces that are very similar and kind of package them up and make them easy to use and easy to pull from project to project. And so there's a whole lot of different frameworks out there, and so there's kind of common wisdom about which frameworks are useful for what and how they go together. But no one programmer has ever used every framework. There's just too many of them. It takes too long to learn them. So it's literally impossible for any particular programmer to really get to know any particular framework. So that being said, I oftentimes have to form an opinion on them because someone will ask me, hey, what do you think we should do this project in? Or, hey, we did this project in framework X. What do you think about it? Now, I do in fact have expertise in frameworks in general because I've used a lot of them. I've probably used more than most people. But that being said, some of what I know about frameworks, I know firsthand because I've used them. And so I know their ins and outs, their good and their bad. But a lot of the things I know about a lot of frameworks, I know secondhand. I know it because somebody else who used it had some opinion on it. So I can share secondhand opinions. And likewise, there's a lot of kind of common wisdom about various frameworks. So these are things that people understand not because they know them themselves, but because people that they respect believe these things. And so what happens with a lot of wisdom from experts is that it's actually just as much secondhand information as getting it from anyone else. You can go on the internet and find all sorts of opinions on all sorts of frameworks, and they will be secondhand opinions just as good as if I had given you a secondhand opinion. And the point of all this is that a lot of times when we talk about experts and expertise, they're not actually giving expert opinion. What they're giving is secondhand opinions of other experts. And so this assumes a whole lot of things. It assumes that they know who that information came from, because not all people are equally good at disseminating information and having good information in the first place. But a lot of times, some of this information that we think we know doesn't always come from good sources. And so it kind of gets passed around and it becomes common wisdom, even though it didn't have a very good source. And so just because it came from an expert, it doesn't mean that that expert has firsthand information about where that comes from. In fact, if you imagine someone getting their PhD, usually your PhD is over a very, very, very narrow subject. And in fact, in order to do a PhD, you have to summarize information, you have to get summaries of information, you have to trust information, and a whole lot of that, what goes into that is not even your firsthand knowledge. The thing that you know firsthand is actually a very, very tiny piece of the pie. And so what happens is that people then rely on you to be an expert in all of it. But really, all you can actually offer on the whole tomato, as it were, is you can only offer secondhand expert opinions. And so this is why a lot of people do, in fact, tend to Google things or do that sort of search, because I can find a secondhand opinion from anyone. Now, if it was the case that this is what you did your research on and you really know about these things, that's one thing, but it's something entirely different if you are simply, as an expert, you're simply regurgitating secondhand opinions that happen to be popular among experts, because that's not really expertise. It's the opinion of experts, but it's not expertise. And so anyway, I just want you to keep that in mind, and kind of, I hope for experts to recognize the limitations of the advice that they give, that a lot of what they might themselves think of as expertise may just be secondhand knowledge parading as expertise. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed your time on BP Mindcast. Until next time, keep thinking.